وَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. When Jummah Salat finishes, spread among the earth and seek fadl of Allah. Fadl of Allah means rizq of Allah. And after this, the ayat comes, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا انفَضُّوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا. Bring one pussy. When they see any tijarat, you tell them, if you want luck, take part of it, just do one part. Right. This is to say tijarat is perfectly okay. No, the other way around. But it's easy for you. If you want, you can sit over here. First, I will go a little bit about bay' and its aqsam and types. MashaAllah. Usman bhai again. MashaAllah. Go have some breakfast first. Sufyan, nashta kara do pehle go. All right. Al-buyu' is plural of bay'un. And in Arabic, bay'un means mubadalatul mal bil taradi. Exchanging mal with mal by mutual agreement is called bay'. Hadrat Shaykh Yunus Sahib mentions 14 types of buyu'. If you exchange goods with cash, then that's bay' mutlaq. Then, if on both sides there are goods, like you sell clothes for wheat, then that's called bay' muqayyada. And if there is cash on both sides, like you give pound notes and you get change, coins, or you give pounds and you get dollars, then that's called bay'u sarf. This is why when you go to Arabian lands, you will see sarraf, money exchange. Then, if you give the price and take the goods instantly, then that's again bay'u mutlaq. But if you give the money now and you take the produce later on, like in the case of harvest, where you have to pay 6 months in advance, and when the harvest is ready, it will be delivered to you, that's called bay'u salam. Then, if it's sold with the exact price for which it was bought, then that's called bay'u tawliya. And if profit is taken on it, then that's called bay'u murabaha. And if it's sold at a reduced price, then that's called bay'u wadi'ah. Then, if the buyer is completed, then it's called lazim. And if there is khiyar, an option like 14-day money back guarantee from Argos, then that's called ghayr lazim. Then we have the bay'u sahih, bay'u batil, bay'u fasid, and bay'u makruh. Sahih is where all the shara'i and conditions are fulfilled. Batil is where something is sold which is not allowed, which is not regarded by Shari'at as mali mutaqawwam, like dead meat. Shari'at doesn't take it as something to sell. If someone sold dead meat, that's bay'u batil. Similarly, liquor, alcohol, Shari'at says it's not mali mutaqawwam. Even if someone destroyed a bottle of whiskey, he doesn't have to pay for it. And if someone sold a mali mutaqawwam, that thing which Sharia doesn't regard as mal mutakawwam is called bay' batil. And if the thing was something which you can sell, but there were some conditions in it which Sharia does not allow, then that's called bay' fasid. Like I'm selling you, but I won't give you the product for 10 days. I'm going to use that car and give it to you. I'll take money now, I'll give it to you after 10 days. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 days? You could have an accident. You could do something to it. You could take the alloy wheels off. So that's bay' fasid. You can't keep conditions which Sharia does not allow. And then some buyu are makruh, where the thing which is sold, Sharia dislikes its selling, it will be classed as bay' makruh. That's 14 types of buyu Sheikh Saab mentioned. Then, with regards to buying, selling, Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi in his Ihya has quoted some very nice hidayat. For example, he quotes Hadith wherein Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam encourages the earning of halal wealth. He says, "Man talaba ad-dunya halalan wa ta'affufan 'an al-mas'ala wa sa'yan 'ala 'iyalihi wa ta'attufan 'ala jarihi laqiya Allah wa wajhuhu kal-qamari laylat al-badri." رواه ابن ابي شيبه في المصنف وابن ابي الدنيا في العياد وابو نعيم في الحليه والبيهقي في شعب الايمان وكذا في المشكات. Whoever seeks dunya in a halal way, and in order to protect himself from begging, and in order to strive for his family and children, and in order to be kind to his neighbors and spend on his neighbors as well, then such a person will meet Allah on the day of Qiyamah while his face will be shining like the full moon. He's seeking dunya halal, but innamal a'malu bin niyyat. What is his niyyat for earning halal dunya? Whatever he does, business, job, whatever he does, but he is careful, very particular about halal. And he is seeking it with number one. First intention is ta'affuf anil mas'ala. He doesn't want to stretch his hand out in front of someone. Number two, he wants to work hard and strive for his family, provide for them. So he spends on his family, provides clothing, food, medicine, whatever is needed. And number three, ta'attufan ala jarihi, being kind to the neighbors. Jar will include family members as well, because in those days families used to live in the neighborhood. So on your family members, on your neighbors, on your relatives. So 3 years: to refrain from begging, to provide for family, to be nice to the neighbors and relatives. Then he will meet Allah on the day of Qiyamah, and Allah will be so happy with him. His face will be so nurani that it will be shining like the full moon. Kal-qamari laylat al-badri. Ghazali quotes Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam saw one person and asked him, "Ma tasna? What are you doing?" And he said, "Ata'abbad. I'm busy in worship. I'm a Sufi. Tasbih." So he said, "Man ya'uluk? Who looks after you? Who provides for you? Food, drink, etc." And he said, "Akhi, my brother provides for me." So he said, "Akhuka a'badu minka." Your brother is more worshipping than you. Ibrahim Nakhai rahmatullahi alayhi was asked about at-tajiru saduq, a businessman who's truthful. Is he more beloved to you, or a person who's always busy and farig for ibadat, does nothing but ibadat? And he said, at-tajiru saduq ahabbu ilayya. The truthful merchant is more beloved to me. لأنه في جهاد يأتيه الشيطان من طريق المكيال والميزان ومن قبل الأخذ والعطاء فيجاهده. Because he is in a struggle where Shaitan approaches him from the path of weighing and measuring and taking and giving, but he has to struggle and fight with Shaitan and rid him off. So his mujahada is much greater than the mujahada of the one who's sitting with tasbih. So his rank is more higher and more beloved to me than that person who is free for ibadah. In fact, this reminds me of a hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin, التاجر الصدوق الأمين مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. It's in Bukhari as well. التاجر الصدوق الأمين will be with نبيين صديقين شهداء صالحين. So this is virtue of earning wealth in a halal way by buying and selling transaction. Islamic finance is today's topic. 40 hadith we are going to study, inshallah. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi put forward one question over here and answers to it. There is one hadith which says, ما أوحي إلي أن أجمع المال وأن أكون من التاجرين ولكن أوحي إلي أن سبح بحمد ربك وكن من الساجدين واعبد ربك حتى يأتيك اليقين. رواه أبو الشيخ في أخلاق النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو في المشكات أيضا. I have not been sent wahi down to gather, amass wealth and be from the businessman. What wahi came to me is that glorify your Rabb with his praise and be from the sajideen and worship your Rabb until certainty comes to you, meaning death. So one might ask that this hadith says that tijarat is no good, and above you mentioned that tijarat and business is good. So how can you reconcile between the two? Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi says that this is based on niyyat. As we read in the previous hadith, man talaba ad-dunya halalan ila akhir al-hadith. Now, if a person's niyyat is not what's mentioned in that previous hadith, the three niyyats, he only wants to increase his wealth and reserve it, restore it, save it, increase his bank balance, and he doesn't want to spend it in good ways, then that is blameworthy, criticized. Because this indicates towards love of dunya. And love of dunya is blameworthy, it is the head of all sins. And if along with that amassing wealth for the sake of wealth, the person does khiyanat and deceives people as well, is treacherous, is lying, deceiving, then that's even worse. That's zulm, and that's qasawat, and that's fisq. So Prophet ﷺ is saying where this comes in the mind and this creeps into the heart, that's what's blameworthy. Otherwise, if you earn it halal way with the correct intentions, it would be okay. Then Ghazali goes on to say that if a person was treading on the path of suluk and he was busy with rectifying his inner state and in his ahwal and mukashafat, and he is on that line, or if a person is an alim who is busy in tanbiyatu ilm al-zahir and spreading the ilm among people and people are benefiting from him, then these people should be looked after by the Baytul Mal, the mal which is prepared for masalih shar'iyya, and the awqaf which people give in waqf. It's for ulama and fuqara and zuhad from arbabuz zawaya min as-sufiyya. They should be looked after by that. They should not be told to go and earn on their own. Because we need people who are busy in this line of suluk as well, and we need ulama who are busy in the line of studying, teaching, education as well. So if everybody goes behind business, then who's going to do this one? So the community will have to look after these people. Also, another thing that comes to my mind is Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma uhiya ilayya an ajma' al-mal." So it could be especially for him. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam never amassed or stored any wealth for himself. Turn around. Easy. Sorry. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam never gathered wealth for himself. He was always content with what he had. In fact, in one riwayat, he said, وَجُعِلَ رِزْقِي تَحْتَ ظِلِّ رُمْحِي. He used to do business before Nubuwwat. When he was 25, he went with the wealth of Khadija and he had some asfar. But after Nubuwwat, he was busy with the work of Wahi. So if someone is busy in this line, he should not go on the tijarat side. He should keep himself busy on this line, leave the tijarat for the people. Maybe perhaps this is how you can reconcile between both ahadith. Allah knows best. Now we will move on to the ahadith. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has in the first chapter about فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ provided some ahadith where Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu said that my friends used to be busy in their tijarat and I used to stay in the khidmat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why I learned many hadith from Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, he's brought in the hadith of Abdul Rahman ibn Auf radiyallahu anhu. When he came to Medina Sharif, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a brotherhood between him and Sa'd ibn Rabi'. Close the door. Sa'd ibn Rabi'. So his friend Sa'd said that I will give you half my wealth and I will divorce my one wife. You can marry her after his iddat finishes. He said, no. Where is the market? He went to the market. He started his business and made profit. So this shows that Sahaba radiallahu anhum did do tijarat and earn their livelihood through halal means. So he brought in that hadith there. Then he moves on to Babun al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun wa baynahuma mushtabihatun la ya'lamuhunna kathirun min al-nas.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبقال حدثني محمد بن المثنى قال حدثنا ابن ابي عدي عن ابن عون عن الشعبي سمعت النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنه سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وحدثنا علي بن عبد الله قال حدثنا ابن عيينة قال حدثنا ابو فروة عن الشعبي قال سمعت النعمان بن بشير قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وحدثنا عبد الله بن محمد قال حدثنا ابن عيينة عن ابي فروة سمعت الشعبي سمعت النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال حدثنا محمد بن كثير قال اخبرنا سفيان عن ابي فروة عن الشعبي عن النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الحلال بين والحرام بين وبينهما امور مشتبهة فمن ترك ما شبه عليه من الاثم كان لما استبان اتربه ومن اشترى على ما يشك فيه من الاثم اوشك ان يواقع ما استبان والمعاصي حمى الله من يرتع حول الحمى يوشك ان يواقعه. The Prophet ﷺ said, both legal and illegal things are obvious, and in between them are suspicious, doubtful matters. So whoever forsakes those doubtful things, lest he may commit a sin, will definitely avoid what is clearly illegal. And whoever indulges in these suspicious, doubtful things bravely is likely to commit what is clearly illegal. Sins are Allah's himam, i.e. private pasture, and whoever pastures his sheep near it is likely to fall in it at any moment.
Babu al-mushabbahat, tafsiri mushabbahat, al-halalu bayyinun wal-haramu bayyinun wa baynahuma mushtabihatun. Mara khayal mein aapne sanad badi Ibrahim Rawat padhe. This matan pad lo. It was time nahi aa raha hai. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, halal is clear and haram is clear. Now, with regards to food, drink, you know what is halal, what is haram. Right? Chicken, sheep, mutton, beef, camel, fish, halal. Vegetable, fruit, halal. Khinzir, sharab, haram. But also with regards to tijarat, right? Because this is in Kitabul Buyu. Some buyu are halal, some buyu are haram. Some transactions are halal, some transactions are haram. Halal transaction, clear, right? Have this mobile phone, I sell it 400 pounds iPhone. Okay, halal transaction. Right? But some transactions we know are haram. Like a person goes to a pub and buys whiskey, a haram transaction. A person sells whiskey and it's haram transaction. You can't do it. So halal transactions are clear, haram transactions are clear. وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَةٌ. In between are some doubtful matters. Now over here, there is one word which is in other ahadith as well, and that is لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many people don't know it. What does that mean? Some people do know it. Who are those some people who know it? The Muftiyan Kiram. So it is confusing and doubtful for many people, for the general public. They don't know whether this is allowed or not. But if you go to a Mufti, the Mufti will know that whether it's allowed or not. Do you get it? So some are gray areas which are doubtful, confusing for some people, but others, the ulama kiram, the muftiyan kiram, who researched it and gone into it, they know whether this is allowed or not. Now, فَمَنْ تَرَكَ مَا شُبِّهَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْإِثْمِ كَانَ لِمَا اسْتَبَانَ لَهُ أَتَرَكَ. Whosoever forsakes doubtful things so that because he may fall into a sin, will definitely avoid what is clearly illegal. Meaning, if you have a mentality of leaving aside shak shubha things, then you will leave the haram more, because you are a muttaqi, but he is God. Wherever you get the slightest doubt, he said, nah, I'm not taking it. This transaction is doubtful, I don't know. I haven't consulted Mufti Sahab, I don't know whether it's halal or not. I don't need it, just leave it. So you will leave haram more. Once someone asked me, can I buy shares in Manchester United football club? I asked our Mufti Shaheeh Sahab. And Mufti Shaheeh Sahab said, what does Manchester United sell? And Manchester United sell their shirts, scarves. you, of leaving mushtabihat when you have qana'at in you. This is what Prophet ﷺ is encouraging us, that avoid doubtful stuff. If you make a habit of avoiding doubtful stuff, you will avoid haram more because you are a muttaqi, parhezgar person. Now, whoever indulges in these suspicious, doubtful things bravely, ijtara is the word over here, boldly. Ijtara means from jurat, boldly, then أَوْشَكَ أَنْ يُوَاقِعَ مَسْتَبَانَ. He is likely to fall into that which is very clearly haram. Mastabana, which is being clearly haram. وَالْمَعَاصِي حِمَ اللَّهِ. Sins are Allah's hima, i.e. private pasture. The translator has translated here as private pasture. Normally, hima is translated as borderline, fence. Sins are the borderlines and fence and limits created by Allah. من يرتع حول الحمى يوشك أن يقع فيه. Whosoever pastures his sheep near it, it is likely that he will fall into that hima as well. Meaning, if someone lets his sheep go near the pasturing area of someone or the borderline of someone, then one side and this side is green grass, but on that side is the crops, and they are more sweeter, but they are not allowed for him. He can't let his sheep go in there. But if he takes close to it, his sheep will jump in there as well. Because the fence is not so high, they can just cross it. So they will go in there as well. So this means the haram area is bordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now if a person falls into shubuhat, he is going near that borderline. And then he will jump into the haram as well. And this will include everything. Everything. We have to avoid what is shak shubha as well, so that we don't fall into haram. One hadith in Ibn Majah says, لا يبلغ العبد أن يكون من المتقين حتى يدع ما لا بأس به حذرا مما به البأس. A person cannot reach the highest level of taqwa, of muttaqeen, until he leaves that which has no harm in it for fear of falling into that which does have harm, which is halal, but he leaves it because excess halal could lead to haram. So he says, I might as well leave this halal as well, so I don't fall into haram. Then he will get to that highest level of taqwa. So sometimes you have to leave some halal things as well because you are scared of falling into haram. This is what perhaps Imam Bukhari is saying. Imam Bukhari, very intelligent person. Now this hadith, normally we think it's about food and drink and consuming, but he's brought it in Kitab al-Buyu to say that in Buyu as well there are halal Buyu, haram Buyu, and there are shukuk, shubuhat Buyu as well. So whenever you make transaction, any Islamic finance, if it's halal, do it. If it's haram, avoid it. If it's shuk, shubha, still avoid it. Until you ask some mufti sahab who clears it up for you, whether it's on the halal side or in the haram side, then you might be able to decide for yourself. But until then, you must make a habit of avoiding those shak shubha things. And is clear? Any questions? Maulana Ibrahim sahab?
One more hadith. دع ما يريبك إلى
دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. Leave that which يريبك क्या तर्जमा करेंगे?
Doubt.
No. Raba yaribu means something that creates hesitation and that niggling feeling in you. Your mind is confused. You're always thinking about it. That's called rayb. La rayba fihi. Hudan lil muttaqin. It's translated as la shakka fihi. But rayb literally means something that creates a confusion in your mind, and you get that hesitation feeling, the niggling feeling. That's called rayb. So anything that causes any niggling feeling in your mind, then remember there's something dodgy in it. You know that there's something dodgy here. So wherever you get that feeling, just leave it. And go to that which does not create doubt and confusion in you, then you will be safe. Chaliye. Next hadith please. सिर्फ hadith का मतलब पढ़ रहा है.
عن انس رضي الله عنه قال مر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بتمرة مسقوطة فقال لولا ان تكون من صدقة لاكلتها. وقال همام عن ابي هريرة رضي الله عنه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اجد تمرة ساقطة على فراشي. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم passed by fallen day and said, were it not for my doubt that this might have been given in charity, I would have eaten it. And narrated Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, I found a date fallen on my bed.
This hadith, Imam Bukhari brought in Babu ma yutanazzahu min ash-shubuhat. Alladhi yutanazzahu min ash-shubuhat. Those shubuhat which should be avoided. Look at the taqwa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He passed by a date which was fallen. Masqutatan, in one riwayat musqatatan, in another riwayat saqitatan, as in another hadith after it. But he said, if it was not from the sadaqah, I would have eaten it. In the other riwayat, that إني لأجد التمرة ساقطة على فراشي فأتركها مخافة أن تكون من الصدقة. I sometimes see a date fallen on my bedding in my house, but I leave it for fear of it being from sadaqah. Now remember, where is this? In the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the most likelihood is that it's his own. But there is a slight possibility, maybe 10%, that it could be from the sadaqah dates which might have come in the house. And Prophet ﷺ was not allowed sadaqah zakat. So he said, because of that slight possibility, I leave that day and give it to someone else. I don't eat it. You see, this is shubuha, a slight doubt, but he left it. This is a taqwa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Chaliye. Now after this, Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi has brought another chapter book called Babu Man Lam Yara al-Wasawis wa Nahwaha min ash-Shubuhat. That, of course, doubtful things to be avoided, but waswasa is not from the doubtful things. So avoid the waswasa. If you have done some transaction in a pure halal way, but then some waswasas come in your mind that is halal or not, halal or not, then he said, don't leave it, do it. Because you know you're certain it's halal way, so waswasa should not be paid any attention. He brought the hadith in there that some people, the Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked, that some people bring us meat. We don't know whether they've said Bismillah on it or not. Should we eat it? And Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Sammullah antum wa kulu. You read Bismillah and eat it. Now, who are these people who brought meat? Muslims or non-Muslims? Muslims. So the most likelihood is they did say Bismillah. Now this waswasa, khabandi Bismillah padi gani, khabandi Bismillah padi gani. This is waswasa. This is no shubha. This has no basis. So Prophet ﷺ said, don't eat that meat because of this shubha. This is waswasa. Avoid the waswasa, eat that meat. And if you want to remove that waswasa, you say Bismillah and eat it. So it doesn't mean that if a kafir slaughtered a meat, then you say Bismillah and eat it, it will be halal for you. Some Arabs take this meaning, may Allah give them hidayat. That's not what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, you know he is a Muslim, you know he's going to do it in a slaughter it in a halal way, then why should you get this waswasa in your mind? So even in buyu and transactions, Bukhari is trying to say, if there is waswasa, remove the waswasa, don't remove that bay and transaction, go ahead with that transaction. Chaliye. Also, Bukhari after this has brought a chapter called Babu Kasbir Rajul wa Amalihi biyadihi. A man earning his livelihood and working with his hands. And he brought in there the hadith, Kana Dawood alayhi salam ya'kulu min kasbihi. Dawood alayhi salam used to eat from his hard-earned wealth. And also he brought in there the hadith, لأن يأخذ أحدكم أحبله خير له من أن يسأل الناس. That to take your rope and go in the forest and cut some wood, sell it, and earn your living with it is better than asking from people. So this is hard work. Now this is what you need to understand today. Today, people want easy money. I invest here, invest there, I make money, and I become rich, millionaire quickly. Who wants to be a millionaire? You would be a millionaire. Gambling, in these types of things, that's not the way. There's no barakat in there. The correct barakat is in your hard-earned money. And remember, there are two things, barakat and kasrat. Someone might have kasrat, but no barakat. And someone might have barakat in spite of qillat. He's got little, but he's got so much barakat, his needs are fulfilled. You know, alhamdulillah, he has a modest car, and he doesn't have to go for excessive repairs, accident, this, that. No overhead bills on his head, and no overspending. Allah fulfills his needs. But other people have so much money coming in, but then there is so much outgoings, they fail to make ends meet. So what we need from Allah is barakat. And barakat is in your hard-earned money, not that money which you maybe deceive someone or commit fraud or something and bring in haram way. There's no barakat in there. In fact, that destroys your ruhaniyat and spirituality. And that haram money affects your children and their behavior and your family and the household as well. So cheating, defrauding, deceiving, lying, tricking people, and earning haram way is no good. It won't bring any barakat in your life. It'll get rid of remove the barakat from you. So Imam Bukhari quoted that in Babu Kasbir Rajul wa amalihi biyadihi. Also, Imam Bukhari brought another chapter after this. Babu man ahabba al-basta fi rizqi. Chapter on one who likes expansion in his rizq. Meaning to say there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to expand your rizq and have more money, no problem. Provided, remember the first study that quoted from Ghazali. 3 intentions. To stay away from begging and spend on your family and be nice to your relatives and your neighbors. Then it's okay, no problem. Expansion in rizq is allowed and liking it is allowed. And Imam Bukhari is very intelligent. He brings the hadith, Man ahabba an yubsata lahu fi rizqihi wa yunsa'a lahu fi atharihi falyasil rahimahu. If you want your rizq to be expanded and your life to be extended, then you should join your kinship relationship. Be very nice to your kinship, your relatives, your parents, your family members, your brothers, sisters, your grandparents, all your relatives. If you join your relationship, kinship, spend on your mother, spend on your father, spend on your brother, spend on your sister, you will get these 2 things. So from there, ahabba an yubsata lahu fi rizqi. Man sarrahu an yubsata lahu fi rizqi. This is what Imam Bukhari has said. Imam Bukhari has also brought chapters of al-khuruj fi tijara, going out for business. And he said, tijarat fil bar, tijarat fil bahr, going for tijarat on the land, going for tijarat in the sea. So he's brought a hadith in there for business on land, business on sea. He said you are allowed to travel on the oceans as well for the sake of what you call earning your livelihood. ذكر رجلا من بني إسرائيل خرج في البحر فقضى حاجته وترى الفلك مواخر فيه ولتبتغوا من فضله. You travel by ships seeking for rizq. If it wasn't on the ships, you wouldn't get Pakistani mangoes over here and Indian, mangoes and kesar and chosa. It all comes through from other lands. So we need these travel means, and businessmen will do business. They will get that food to us, and we will be able to survive. Especially in England, we are an island surrounded by water. Nothing grows over here. We need all these businesses and trades. Look what's happening now because of Brexit. No truck drivers, no lorry drivers. So many supermarket shelves are empty. So we need this traveling, trade, business. It's allowed. You have to do it in order for your survival. This is what Imam Bukhari has explained over here. So this is how the hadith go on. Now we will move on to next chapter. Chaliye.
عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رحم الله رجلا سمحا إذا باع وإذا اشترى وإذا اقتضى. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "May Allah's mercy be on him who is lenient in his buying, selling, and demanding back his money."
Okay, with regards to the last chapter, Kasbul Rajul Mu'amalihi Biyadihi, Imam Ghazali Rahmatullahi alayhi has gone into a bit detail in there as well. That which type of tijarat is, best. And he said, clothing. Clothing is the best tijarat. And many of the Salafi Salihin were into clothing because there's no risks in there. Imam Abu Hanifa used to sell clothes. Imam Bukhari used to do business in clothing. Tijarat fil bazzi, clothing. Also, he said, Salaf used to dislike the money exchange business. Saf, bay'u saf. And Ibn Sirin rahmatullahi alayhi said that Kana Ibn Sirin yakrahu dalalata. He would dislike agencies. Because in bay'u saf, there is money involved and sometimes riba and sood also takes place. And in dalali, when you become an agent, then sometimes you have to, say something which is not true as well. You have to overpraise the product in order to get buyers. So he said this type of agency, Ibn Sirin disliked, he said, I wouldn't go into that. Also, Ghazali said, having business in meat and cutting meat, slaughtering animals, Salaf used to dislike that. Because when you see too much meat and blood and slaughtering, this brings a certain qasabat on the heart. And Salaf didn't like that. It's not saying it's haram. What we are talking is what is liked and what is disliked. What Salaf used to like, what Salaf used to dislike. Similarly, Salaf used to dislike being a hajjam because it involves blood as well and also mukhalatatun najasat. Najasat and blood is touched in there as well. Also, one should avoid malahi and ghina and those things in which there is tazayyun and tana'um, opening beauty parlors and beauticians and going in that field. Then Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has gone on to explain that for a salik, for a person who was to get to Allah, but at the same time he was to earn halal as well, then he should keep his sabah and masa for akhirat. Meaning for his dhikr, tilawat, awrat, morning and evenings for his awrat and wazaif and everything. And wama bainahuma lid-dunya. What is in between, he should use it for dunya. So don't do business in the morning or in the evening. Do your business during the day, and in the morning and evening, keep it for your akhirah. Sayyiduna Ali al-Khawwas rahmatullahi alayhi used to say, Inna Allah ta'ala yaqsimu al-arzaq al-mahsusa ba'da salat al-subh wal-arzaq al-ma'nawiyya ba'da salat al-asr. وَلِهَذَا نُهِينَا عَنِ النَّوْمِ فِي هَذَيْنِ الْوَقْتَيْنِ. Allah distributes the rizq which we can see, the visible rizq in the morning after Fajr. And Allah distributes the ma'nawi and ruhani rizq after Asr. So this is why we've been told not to sleep in these two times, after Fajr and after Asr. So after Fajr, busy in zikr, after Asr, busy in zikr. After Fajr, if you busy yourself in zikr, Allah will distribute your rizq for you. And after Asr, if you busy yourself in zikr, Allah will distribute your ruhaniyat for you. This is what Ali al-Khawwas said, and Imam Ghazali quoted. And Imam Ghazali said, in between, in the late mornings, afternoons, after Zohar, keep that time for your ma'ishat and for your livelihood and rizq. Some Salafi Salihin, Mashayikh used to do tijarat as well, like Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullahi alayhi. He used to earn his livelihood by himself. He had a stall and he used to work in that shop. But in spite of that, his daily wird was 300 rakat nafil every day and 30,000 tasbihat every day. In his shop, he used to keep busy with his tasbih. We don't get customers all the time. Sometimes you're just waiting for a customer. So while you're waiting, why don't you keep yourself busy in tasbihat? This is why Hazrat Junaid Baghdadi used to read 30,000 tasbihat daily and 300 rakat nafil namaz daily. He wouldn't say, but what happened was once he came in the masjid and there were people chit chat, talking, gossiping. So he had told them off many times, but they wouldn't listen. So once he said, some people sit in the masjid, but they deserve to be outside masjid. Others are outside masjid, but they deserve to be in masjid because they did 300 nafil every day and 30,000 tasbihah. He was indicating towards himself. Hazrat Pirani Pir Sayyiduna Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahmatullahi alayhi. He did not need to go out and earn himself. Allah gave him 4 wives, and they used to do business and they used to bring his, livelihood. And Hazrat used to be busy. And then when he had children, he had 49 children. How many children? 49. So wives and children are not against Rukh. And his children, when they grew up, they used to do business. And they used to look after the cost of the whole khanqah of Hazrat Pirani Pir Rahmatullahi. So whole khanqah of Hazrat Pirani Pir used to run, and thousands of murids used to come, and all those costs were provided by his sons, who used to do business and look after the khanqah. So this is kasbur rajul wa amalihi biyadihi man ahabba al-basta fi rizqi. Now, where are we now? We are into the hadith number 3. باب السهولة والسماحة في الشراء والبيع ومن طلب حقا فليطلبه في عفاف. And we read this hadith. رحم الله رجلا سمحا إذا باع وسمحا إذا اشترى وسمحا إذا اقتضى. May Allah have mercy upon the one who is lenient in buying and in selling and in demanding back his money. رحم الله إمران. Muhashir says, ظاهره الدعاء ويحتمل الخبر. Bazahir, what appears is that this Rahimallahu is dua, jumla du'a'iyya. Du'a'iyya sentences are said with madi. Like when you say Jazakallah. It doesn't mean Allah rewarded you, it means may Allah reward you. Same when you say Barakallah, may Allah give you barakah. So Rahimallah means may Allah have mercy on such a person. This is the apparent meaning. Mutarjim over here has translated Rahimallah as may Allah's mercy, du'a'iyya. Some people translate it as khabar, information. Allah's mercy goes on such a person who is lenient and soft. Samhan ay al-jawwad al-mushil. A person who is generous and who is easygoing. From samahat, who is easygoing, flexible, lenient in buying and in selling. Buying and selling. Buying, who is lenient in buying. This reminds me of the father of our Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Mutala Sahab, Rahmatullahi alayhima. Hazrat's father had a small shop in Varethi, and he used to travel to Surat to purchase the goods for the shop. So Surat is at a distance, maybe 2-3 hours journey. So when he would arrive in Surat and the businessmen, the wholesalers would see him, they would say, Suleiman Seth Hage. Hazrat's father was called Suleiman. Suleiman Seth Hage. Aiye Suleiman Seth Sahab. They would be really happy to see Hazrat's father. And Hazrat's father would order his stuff and the bill would be made. Now, so many rupees and so many paisas. So Hazrat's father would give the paisa first and then the rupees. And they would say, the shopkeeper would say, leave the paisa, just give me the rupees. And Hazrat's father would say, no, that's your profit. You have to take it first, then he would give the rupees. If it was one of us, reduce a little bit, give me some discount. Hazrat's father would not ask for discount, he would pay the pence first and then the rupees. This is easy going, lenient, flexible when buying. And flexible when selling, when kids come and they don't have enough money, next time you are lenient with them. And also when demanding back money. Some people are really harsh when asking for their money, but when a person is soft, gentle in demanding, please, please, so So in demanding, you should be soft and gentle and flexible and lenient as well. If you have this, then Allah will, show you mercy and rahmah. Chaliye. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi has said that for a Sufi, samahat is necessary, important, because man samahal khalq samahul khaliq. Whosoever is lenient with public, then the Khaliq will be lenient with him. If we are soft with people, Allah will be soft with us. Chaliye.
أن حذيفة رضي الله عنه قال حدثه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تلقت الملائكة روح رجل ممن كان قبلكم قالوا أعملت من الخير شيئا قال كنت
عملت
قال أعملت من الخير شيئا قال كنت آمر فتياني أن ينظروا ويتجاوزوا عن الموسر قال فتجاوزوا عنه قال أبو عبد الله قال أبو مالك عن الربيعي كنت أيسر على الموسر وأنذر المعسر وتابعه شعبة عن عبد الملك عن الربيعي وقال أبو عوانة عن عبد الملك عن الربيعي أنذر الموسر وأتجاوز عن المعسر وقال نعيم بن أبي هند عن الربيعي فأقبل من الموسر وأتجاوز عن المعسر. Prophet ﷺ said, before your time the angel received the soul of a man and asked him, did you do any good deeds in your life? He replied, I used to order my employees to grant time to the rich person to pay his debts at his convenience. So Allah said to the angels, excuse him. Rib'i said that the dead man said, I used to be easy to the rich and grant time to the poor. Or in narration, grant time to the well-off and forgive the needy. Or accept from the well-off and forgive the needy.
There are various versions of the Hadith, but the main subject topic of Hadith is what we discussed in the previous one. Because in the previous one, as-sahulat was samahat, being flexible, easy, lenient. So this person was lenient and Allah was lenient with him. The chapter over here is man andara musira, one who gives respite and time to a well-off person. There are two words here, musir and mu'asir. Musir means ghani, rich, and mu'asir means faqir, poor. Now you should give respite to both. Normally people give respite to the poor, but don't give respite to the wealthy. They got too much dosh, man, come on, give me money. So they don't give him time. Sometimes a person buys something from you, but he doesn't have the money, full money at that time. He said, okay, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I'll give you later. And he said, no, but I want it now. So that should not be the case. Even if he's got a lot of money, but he was asking for some time, give him some time. This is what the hadith is trying to explain. Now, over here, who is a rich man? Should not go into detail in there. Sufyan Thawri, Ibn Mubarak, Imam Ahmad, Ishaq ibn Rahway says, a rich is a person who has 50 dirhams or more, or is equivalent in gold. However, others say, Imam Shafi'i Rahmatullah said, sometimes the person has only 1 dirham, but he is rich, because it's more than his need. So it doesn't have to be 50 dirhams. From the book of Hanafiya, Mabsut and Sahibul Muhid said that richness falls into 3 levels. First level is that richness upon which zakat becomes wajib. The person is sahibi nisab. What is nisab in this day and age? Gold nisab is a lot, maybe 9,000-10,000 pounds, but silver nisab is about 300 pounds. So that is the nisab upon which zakat comes on you. Number 2, that richness upon which sadaqatul fitr and qurbani becomes wajib, and the person is not allowed to take zakat. And that is when a person does not have too much wealth, but he has wealth which is more than his hawaiji asliya, his daily necessities. Then he cannot take zakat, and qurbani is wajib on him. And the third is al-ghina, al-mani, and hurmati su'al. That amount of richness which stops a person from begging. Meaning he has just enough. Then you should not go around people's home and ask for people. You've got all you need, but you still beg from people. Even though you're not rich, but your needs are fulfilled. You got your daily bread of morning and afternoon, so you shouldn't beg from people. So ghina falls into three levels as mentioned by the Muhashi Al-Ma'ini rahmatullahi alayhi. Chaliye. Next chapter is Man Andara Mu'sira, a person who gives time and respite to a poor and needy person. Chaliye.
النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كان تاجر يداين الناس فإذا رأى معسرا قال لفتيانه تجاوزوا عنه لعل الله أن يتجاوز عنا فتجاوز الله عنه. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said there was a merchant who used to lend the people and whenever his debtor was in straitened circumstances he would say to his employees, forgive him so that Allah may forgive us. So Allah forgive him.
There was a businessman, Yudayinun Nasa. Qamus book of Lughat says, Dayantuhu e aqraztuhu wa aqrazani. I gave him loan and he gave me loan. It's called Dayana Yudayinu Mudayanatan. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha tadayantum bidaynin ila ajalin musamman faktubu. So Mudayana means to give, lend money, borrow money to one another. So a tajir, a businessman, used to lend money to people and borrow money from people. This is Yudayinun Nas. When he would see a poor person, he would say to his fitiyan. Fitiyan is plural of fata, which means nokar, khadim, and tajawazu anhu, let him off. Perhaps Allah will let us off. So Allah did let him off. Tajawuz means invar, giving respite, and wadi'a, reducing the payments, and husnul taqazi, and asking in a beautiful way. You get it? Three things. Number one, giving more time. The time was 31st July, but the poor person came by, I haven't got it. Can you give me 3 extra months? And he said, no problem. Give me at the end of October. This is giving him more time. And wadiya means he owed you 1,000, but he came with 800. He said, this is all I've got. And you say, okay, I'll let you 200 off. This is called reducing the payment. And also, husnul taqazi. If the time is up 31st July, you ask him, buy my money. So you ask in a better way, in a good way, in good words, rude to the person. And you look at payment, time and you start shouting, screaming, and debasing, belittling me in front of everyone. This is in bureau, not in istiqra. So in bay'ah as well, if in the payment of the product which someone has bought, if he is a little bit short, then accept that amount, let him off. This is what Shariah is saying. If you are lenient with people, Allah will be lenient with you. Shariah. After this, Imam Bukhari has brought a very nice hadith. Babu idha bayyana al-bayyi'ani wa lam yaktuma wa nasaha. When two people do a transaction and they keep everything clear, don't hide anything, and wish well for one another, then the hadith says, there will be barakat in that transaction. And if they lie and hide things, then muhiqat barakatu bayrihima. The barakat of that transaction is wiped out. Sometimes our car is a bit faulty and we say, and then you advertise it and you hide that fault which is in there. So even if you deceive someone, the person takes it and then he finds out after a week or a month, then your bay'at and this transaction will have no barakat in it. But if you tell him clearly, this is the fault, take it if you want. If you don't want to take it, no problem. But if you want to take it and he says, oh, in that case it's going to cost me to repair 500 pounds, so you'll have to reduce it. You say, no, I can't reduce 500 pounds. I'll reduce 300 pounds. And he's happy with that. Okay, you made it clear that that transaction will have barakat in there. This is what Imam Bukhari explained. Al-Bayyan bil-khiyar ma lam yatafarraqa ila akhirih. Chaliye.
عن ابي هريره رضي الله عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لياتين على الناس زمان لا يبالي المرء بما اخذ المال امن حلال ام من حرام. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, certainly a time will come when people will not bother to know from where they earn the money, by lawful means or unlawful means.
In transactions and buyur, people will deal in interest. So if a person bought some goods from you and is not able to pay it now, so you say, okay, but your bill is so much, you're going to pay me afterwards, you have to pay me this amount of interest on it. So people will charge interest on payments. A time will come when people will be doing this. And a person will not be careful where he takes his mal from, halal way or haram way. So is Bukhari trying to say, make sure you don't fall into that category. Okay? Earn your money, take it from halal sources. Don't let your mind drift towards haram sources. Chaliye.
عن سمرة بن جندب رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رأيت الليلة رجلين يأتيان فأخرجاني إلى أرض مقدسة فانطلقنا حتى أتينا على نهر من فيه رجل قائم على وسط النهر بجنبين يديه حجارة فأقبل الرجل الذي في النهر فإذا أراد الرجل أن يخرج الرجل بحجر فيه فرده حيث كان فجعل كلما جاء ليخرج رمى فيه بحجر فيرجع كما كان يقول ما هذا فقال الذي رأيته في النهر آكل الربا.
This chapter is about consuming riba, interest, and writing down riba and being a witness to that transaction of riba. Chaliye.
Prophet ﷺ said, this night I dreamt that two men came and took me to a holy land whence we proceeded.
The hadith is clear, doesn't need more explanation.
Until we reached a river of blood where a man was standing and on his bank was standing another man with stones in his hands. The man in the middle of the river tried to come out, but the other threw a stone in his mouth and forced him to go back in his original place. So whenever he tried to come out, the other man would throw a stone in his mouth and force him to go back to the former place. I asked, who is this? I was told the person in the river was a consumer of riba.
Hadith is clear. Do you understand the meaning of the hadith? Prophet ﷺ saw a dream. No. This was a dream. In the morning, he said to Sahaba, has anyone seen any dream? And if someone did, they would mention it. He would give ta'bir of it. And if not, he had seen dream, he would mention it and explain it. So one morning after Fajr, he said, anybody seen any dream? And everybody was quiet, silent. So he said, however, I saw a dream. And he was shown some scenes, a long hadith in Babu Majah fi Azab al-Qabr in Kitab al-Janais. But over here, the part connected to our chapter is this one. The Prophet ﷺ saw a river of blood. And where there's blood, there's stickiness and there's stench and smell. Now, there is a man in the middle of that river who's trying to come out. But on the riverbank, there's another man who's a farishta, angel, and he's got some stones by his side. When the person tries to come out, he takes one stone and shoots at him, which strikes his chest, and he falls back into the river. And he gets up and tries to come out again, but again he is struck and thrown back into that river. At the end, Prophet ﷺ was told, this is akilul riba, the person who used to consume interest. Shaykh Yunus said, consuming interest, you suck the blood of people. That is the blood which was gathered over there in the form of that river. You get it? If you give someone money and you take interest from him for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, you're sucking his blood. Slowly. Bichara, he's working his socks off and he's not getting anything. He's paying you everything. So that's sucking his blood. This is why it was shown in the form of blood. And this is azab-e-qabr. This is azab-e-qabr, azab in barzakh. The azab in Jahannam will be additional after that. So Prophet ﷺ saw the person in azab-e-qabr after this, in this manner. Chaliye. This is to say, avoid riba interest in your transactions. We'll learn more about it later on. I want to move forward with the hadith.
قال رأيت أبي اشترى عبدا حجاما فسألته فقال نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ثمن الكلب وثمن الدم ونهى عن الواشمة والموشومة وآكل الربا وموكله ولا عن المصور.
موكل الربا, the one who pays riba and interest, the riba giver. The previous chapter was about riba taker, receiving riba. and now chapter on paying riba. Both haram. People today think that, well, it's haram to take riba, but it's okay, I have to pay it. I have no choice. That is wrong. Paying interest is a jurm same equal to the jurm of taking interest. Chaliye? So this hadith is about the jurm and crime of paying interest. Ji.
My father bought a slave who practiced the profession of cupping. My father broke the slave's instruments of cupping. I asked my father why he had done so. He replied, the Prophet ﷺ forbade the acceptance of the price of a dog or blood, and also forbade the profession of tattooing, getting tattooed, and receiving or giving riba, usury, and cursed the picture makers.
There's something over here. Our main thing is, receiving or giving riba. This is the word we need to focus on. That wa'akil riba wa mukilihi. Akil and mukil are both same. So you can't take riba and you can't give riba. What does that mean? Mortgage. Some people say, Mufti Taqi Sahib said one house is allowed on mortgage. Like Mufti Taqi Sahib didn't say one house on conventional mortgage. He said one house on Islamic mortgage. And people changed it to conventional mortgage. He never said conventional mortgage is allowed. Kyun bichare Mufti Sahib ko badnaam karte ho? And he said only one, because some people used to take Islamic interest, Islamic mortgage for multiple houses. So Mufti Taqi Sahib said, no, you can't do that. Islamic mortgage is allowed for your own personal living house only, not for multiple properties. This was the mas'ala. But people misquoted him and said Mufti Taqi Sahib said one conventional mortgage is allowed. And then today, people don't listen to ulama ikram. My friend was telling me that someone, came to his place and his shop, and they start talking about this, and he said, interest is haram. But I think she was a lady. She said, yeah, but our ulama say this. But I asked so and so sheikh, and he said that yes, you can take mortgage out. I don't know who that sheikh is. Even if he is a sheikh, he is a fake sheikh or milk sheikh or what sheikh is he? Where he studied, where he comes from. Even if he said something, but still, that sheikh is not sheikh who says haram is halal. Something which is qat'i haram. No doubt in it being haram. How can you declare it halal? So, mortgage is haram. Conventional mortgage is haram. Don't take it. Right? We will read more hadith in istiqrar. We'll come upon that. Chaliye.
كنا جلوسنا عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ أتي بجنازة فقال صل عليها فقال هل عليه دين؟ قالوا لا. قال فهل ترك شيئا؟ قالوا لا. فصلى عليه ثم أتي بجنازة أخرى فقالوا يا رسول الله صل عليها. قال هل عليه دين؟ قيل نعم. قال فهل ترك شيئا؟ قالوا 3 دنانير. فصلى عليها ثم أتي بالثلاثة فقالوا صل عليها. قال هل ترك شيئا؟ قالوا لا. قال فهل عليه دين؟ قالوا 3 دنانير. قال صلوا على صاحبكم. قال أبو قتادة صل عليه يا رسول الله وعلي دينه فصلى عليه. Once while we were sitting in the company of the Prophet ﷺ, a dead man was brought. The Prophet ﷺ was requested to lead the funeral prayer for the deceased. He said, is he in debt? The people replied in the negative. He said, has he left any wealth? They said no. So he led his funeral prayer. Another dead man was brought, and the people said, oh, Allah's Messenger ﷺ, lead his funeral prayer. The Prophet ﷺ said, is he in debt? They said yes. He said, has he left any wealth? They said 3 dinars. So he led the prayer. Then a third man was brought, and the people said to the Prophet ﷺ, please lead his funeral prayer. He said, has he left any wealth? They said no. He asked, is he in debt? They said yes. He has to pay 3 dinars. He refused to pray and said, then pray for your dead companion. Abu Qatada said, oh Allah's Messenger, Abu Qatada radiallahu anh said, oh Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, lead his funeral prayer and I will pay his debt. So he led the prayer.
This is the hadith which our Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahib Ahmad Barakatum Mutafizum Allah Muratibum quoted in his bayan on Thursday. Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu hadith. 3 janazas. First janaza, has he got any debts? No. Prophet ﷺ prayed. Second janaza, has he got any debts? And he said yes. How many? 3 dinars. Has he left anything to pay for those debts? Yes, he's left 3 dinars. That means whatever equally his debt can be paid. He prayed the janazah. Third janazah, has he left any debts? Yes, 3 dinars. Anything to pay for it? No, nothing to pay for it. So you prayed that. I'm not going to pray his janazah. Oh, Sahaba are shocked. Prophet refusing to pray his janazah. They couldn't take it. Abu Qatada said, Ya Rasulullah, salli alayhi wa alayhi. I will, pay it off. You pray his janazah, please. So Prophet said, okay, if you take it, then I will pray. He wanted to show people the importance and matter of dayn. Now, Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahab mentioned in that bayan that after that, whenever Prophet saw Abu Qatada, he would ask him, Abu Qatada, have you paid his debts? Have you paid it? Have you paid it? When he finally said, yes, I've paid it off, then he was really happy. MashaAllah. Jazakallah. Thank you very much. That's the hadith. Now, ponder over the word Hal alayhi daynun. What's the word? Hal alayhi daynun. Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahab indicated towards this as well. That we get 2 words over here. One is dayn, the other is qarz. Are you following? Qarz means loan. I give you £100 and you need to pay it back to me. Cash. That's called qarz. And dayn means ma wajaba fi dhimma. Anything that is wajib on your dhimma, on your head. For example, £100 loan, qarz. Or for example, £100 amanat. I kept it, I gave it to you for safekeeping. You need to return it back to me. Now, if you use that money, and when I asked for it, you said, well, I've used it. I don't have it. But it was my money, why? It was amanat. Now, you're not paying me. Then that is dayn on you. Ma wajaba fi dhimma. Number 3. You bought something from me for £100. You didn't pay it on credit. I'll pay you later. Now afterwards, you're not paying me. Say, but it's my money. Say, well, I haven't got money, I'm not paying. That something you purchased and you haven't paid for it yet is also a dayn. Number 4, you damaged my property and the cost of repair is £100. So I say, you damaged my car, my tire, my wing needs painting, it needs repairing, give me money, I'm not giving it. Then it's wajib on you. So anything that becomes wajib on you by any way is in Arabic called dayn. Now you see the difference between qarz and dayn? What do you understand? Qarz is khas and dayn is aam. Qarz is special and dayn is general. So over here, hal alayhi daynun includes everything. Anything that's wajib on him by any way. Number 5 included in there is matters of inheritance. Your father died and you had some of his property in your possession. He put it on your name just for safekeeping, but you make it your own, you don't give it to your brothers and sisters, you don't distribute it. That's dayn. And similar things, it was someone else's property, like back home in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, your land or your something, house or something, but those people over there, they don't want to give it to you. So they will have to pay for it on the day of Qiyamah. This is dayn. Anything that is wajib on you, think of it. Is there something wajib on me which I haven't cleared it yet? If I have, alhamdulillah. If I haven't, I have to be careful with regards to it. This is what Nabi Karim asked. And in this hadith we see the 3 dinars were dayn on him. They could have been for qarz which he took from someone, or they could have been repayment for something which he bought and he had not paid for it yet. So anything that's on you, you have to pay it off before you die. Now, this hadith says Prophet ﷺ refused to pray his janazah. Right? Allama Badruddin Aini rahmatullah alayhi writes in another chapter which is coming on page 323, Babu Salati ala man taraka daynah. Salat upon someone who leaves behind dayn and debts. And he quotes in there another hadith, Man taraka malan faliwarathatihi, wa man taraka daynan aw dhiya'an fa ilayya wa alayya. Aw kama qala alayhi salam. If you leave wealth, it's for your heirs. But if you leave any debts or if you leave any children, orphan, yatims, then hand them over to me, I will look after them. Meaning later on in his life, Prophet ﷺ himself used to pay the debts of those who had been in debt. After Futuhat happened, he used to help them. So Allama Aini Rahmatullah, they said that hadith is nasikh and this hadith is mansukh. And this was, or we could say, this hadith is just to serve as a warning for people that they keep their records clear and don't have anything wajib on them. So if you got something on you, don't keep dragging it on, just pay it off. Who knows? We could have an accident, die instantly, and we still got it on our shoulders. It's not being paid off. Our family members don't know. Our children don't know. And the person doesn't have any proof. He's not going to ask for it. And you will be held to account in your qabr. You know, this person died. Many times this happened with many people, especially now in COVID. Some time ago, you know, long story cutting short, somewhere I was in somewhere and I was asked a masala that this person died of AIDS. Muslim, he had contracted AIDS and he died in there. And he had taken out mortgage and also indemnity insurance. So he had, you know, his wife and his kid or two left behind. The house which was mortgaged, you know, the indemnity insurance were paying the mortgage. His wife was living there, his kids were living in there. They were told by Maulana Sahib, this is not right, you know, just let go of the house. You have another place, you have place with your parents, go stay there. But she said, no, what mortgage? Well, the insurance is paying it. But your husband is getting azab-e-qabr. No, I don't care if he gets azab-e-qabr. You see, that there's many things in there, but this is what's happening to the society nowadays. We have to avoid these things. We have to understand the gravity of the matter of usury and interest. We'll talk more about it in the following. This is Hadith ka tarjuma for the next one. This is in Kitabul Kafala, Babul Kafala fil qarzi wa duyuni bil abdani wa ghayriha. Being a kafil on behalf of someone in qarz and dayn with body and other means, it is allowed. You become a kafil for someone. Guarantor for someone. Like Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu became guarantor. So you become, you know, kafil for someone, guarantor for someone, that is allowed. Chaliye.
The Prophet ﷺ said, an Israeli man asked another Israeli
man ki bajaye tarjuma karo, a man from Bani Israel. Rajulan min Bani Israel. Chaliye.
A man from Bani Israel asked another man from Bani Israel to lend him 1,000 dinars.
1,000 dinars. 1,000 dinar. Dinar is a gold coin. So 1,000 dinars is a lot of money. It could be 100,000, 200,000 pounds. Chaliye.
The second man required witnesses. The former replied, Allah is sufficient as a witness.
Kafa billahi shahida.
The second said, I want a shorty. The former replied, Allah is sufficient as a
Kafa billahi wakila.
The second said, you are right, and lent him the money for a certain period. The debtor went across the sea. When he finished his job,
across the sea, on the other side of the sea. Chaliye.
He searched for a conveyance so that he might reach in time.
Now when the time came, like 31st July, he had to pay it off. So he came to the seaside to look for a taxi, a boat or a ship by which he can cross the other side. But because it was the monsoon season and there were heavy rains, the boats and the ships and taxis were not taking any risks. And they said, we are closed for a few days until things calm down. So he couldn't find a taxi and he was bechain, parishan.
So that he might reach in time for the repayment of the debt, but he could not find any. So he took a piece of wood and made a hole in it.
He took a piece of wood, a lock, and made a hole in the middle. And he put the 1,000 dinars in there and put a chitti in there. And so person, I asked money to borrow from him, and he asked for gawar, and I said, Kafa billahi shahida. He asked for surety, I said, Kafa billahi kafila. So, oh Allah, you know, I want to get to him in time. I can't find any ship or ride to get there, and this is for him, Allah, please deliver it to him. And he then sealed off, you know, from the top, and then he put that log into the water, and the water carried it to the other side. And the other side, the person came to the seaside to look for the person. Today is the 31st, he must be coming to give me my money back. He waited and waited and waited, but no ships coming, no boats coming. He was getting frustrated, and suddenly this piece of log comes to him. And he says, "Oh, okay, let me take this home, cut wood for my fire." So he carried it, he brought it home, and he began to cut it, and he opened up that, and there was the 100 dinar, there was the note there as well. So he said, "Alhamdulillah, Allah delivered my money back." So they were both pious people from Bani Israel, good people from the Israelis. Now, after some time, when the sea calmed down, a person on the other side took another 1,000 dinars, and he took a ship, and he came, and he said, apologized to the person for the delay, that I'm sorry, I delayed in your repayment, forgive me. And he said, "What do you mean you delayed your repayment? You paid me already." He said, "How? Did you not send that log with that piece of note inside?" "Well, I delivered it to me. It came right in front at my feet. And it's there, take this money, it's yours, I don't want it." If it was one of us, now, mashallah, bhi aa jayega. But here, he said, "No, Jazakallah, thank you very much." What do we learn from there? The fruit of honesty. When you are honest in your dealings, in your payments, in your repayments, Allah helps you. There are many hadiths coming forward after this as well. So I've done the hadith. Go on the next one.
أن رجلا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتقاضاه فأغلط فهم به أصحابه فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دعوه فإن لصاحب الحق فقال ثم قال أعطوه سنا مثل سنه قالوا يا رسول الله إلا أمثل من سنه فقال أعطوه فإن من خيركم أحسنكم قضاء. The man came to the Prophet ﷺ demanding his debts and bravely behaved rudely. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ intended to harm him, but Allah's Messenger ﷺ said to them, "Leave him, for the creditor, i.e. owner of the right, has the right to speak." Allah's Messenger ﷺ then said, "Give him a camel of the same age as that of his." The people said, "Oh, Allah's Messenger ﷺ, there is only a camel that is older than his." Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, "Give it to him, for the best amongst you is he who pays the rights of others handsomely."
Imam Bukhari has brought this hadith in Babul Wakalat fi Qada'i Duyun, deputizing someone for repaying of debts. So in the hadith, Prophet ﷺ told us, "Haba a'tuhu sinnan mithla sinni." So he made them his deputy to pay off. So you can tell someone to be your wakil in paying it off. This is the main reason of this hadith in Kitabul Wakalat. Now, what we see in there at the end of the hadith is فَإِنَّ مِنْ خَيْرِكُمْ أَحْسَنَكُمْ قَضَاءً. The best among you is the one who pays his rights of others handsomely. That if you are a good person and you pay off whatever you owe in a good manner, you are the best among the society. You see this? This chapter is coming again. Prophet ﷺ mentioned this goodness in many places. Like for example, he said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. Best among you is he who teaches Quran and studies it. Or he said, خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. Best among you, he is the best, who is the best with his family members. And I am the best for my family members. So there is khayriyat of many ways. And one of the ways of khayriyat is, and being good and best is, that you are, very particular in your payments. When you buy something, you pay whatever you owe. And when you borrow something, you pay it back. When you are in debt, you pay it back nicely. This is a good thing. You will be the best among the society. You are amanatdar, trustworthy. People will give you money as well. They will say to you, Maulana Sahab, Alhamdulillah, barabar time par paisa de diye. When we bought this place, 800,000 pounds, we only had 900 pounds and 4 pence. And we had to make 800,000. Alhamdulillah, people give us curse. And slowly, just 2.5 years, we've only been here 2 years and 6 months. But in these 2 years, 6 months, Allah Himself had paid off our debt. A little bit left here and there, not much. But those people, we owe them, they're also not really worried about it. They've given us 5 years' time, only 2.5 years. So we say, inshallah, slowly, within 5 years, everything will be there. But most of it is done. Tension, there's no tension now. So, and The thing I'm trying to say is, when some people asked us for their money back, what we had said on the receipt was, you have to give us 4 weeks advance time, 1 month. But Alhamdulillah, whoever asked it, they asked in the morning, they gave it back in the evening. By evening, they had their money. Because I used to keep a little bit saving, that if someone suddenly asks, then we are ready to pay. So the best will be the one who pays it off quickly. Now people trust us. Say, Maulana Sahab, you can give Maulana Sahab will give it back whenever we ask for it. Alhamdulillah. So this is khayrukum ahsanakum qada'an. The best among you are who's the best in repaying their debts off. Chaliye. Now from Hadith 12 we start Kitab al-Istiqraz wa Ada'i Duyun wal Hajri wa Taflis. This is on page 321 of Shaheeh Bukhari. Ji.
عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال غزوت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال كيف ترى بعيرك أتبيعني قلت نعم فبعته إياه فلما قدم المدينة غدوت إليه بالبعير فأعطاني ثمنه. While I was in the company of the Prophet ﷺ in one of his ghazwat, he asked, "What is wrong with your camel? Will you sell it?" I replied in the affirmative and sold it to him. When he reached Medina, I took the camel to him in the morning, and he said, and he paid me its price.
Now, you know, these ahadith are the main part of this course. And I'll tell you the Shan Nuzul of this course. Our respected Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahab mentioned in 2 weeks ago that, you know, it was nice if we talked a little bit about dayn and debts and repayment and talked about interest and usury and these things. So it was Hazrat's desire that we compiled some ahadith, and so Alhamdulillah I kept it in mind. Then last week I was in London and Maulana Ibrahim Sahab kept that program of 40 ahadith on softening of the heart. So this gave me the idea of 40 ahadith on loans, repayments, and debts. So our friend Maulana Zaid Mehtar, who was there, we were at Maulana Ibrahim's house for dawat. So while I was eating the food, I said to Maulana Zaid, who was just sitting right next to me, that, you know, Zaid, Maulana Zaid, can you compile 40 hadiths of this type? And he said, yeah, where do you want? I said, from Bukhari Shareef, some from Kitab al-Buyu, some from Kitab al-Istiqraz wa Ada'i Duyun. And I said, okay, I will do it, inshallah. So Maulana Zaid compiled some hadiths and he sent them to me. So I had a look, I said, no, there's too many hadiths of Buyu in here. You know, reduce the Buyu section, increase the Dain section. Because Maulana Bilal Sahab literally originally wants for Duyun. So we reduced, I told him reduce this, take away these hadiths. So many hadiths were taken out from Kitab al-Buyu. We have not covered it. We only got a little bit of it. You see 10, 11 hadiths from Buyu, Hawala, Kala, Kafala. Now we start on Istiqraz, Ada'ud Duyun, and then we'll move on to Maghalim and Ghasab and Huquq al-Ibad. So this is the Shan al-Nuzul of this course, and it is Barakat of Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahab and his instruction and his indication towards this important topic. So we start the original topic for which this was, Buyu was just a tamheed for it. Now we move on to Kitab al-Istiqraz. Istiqraz is from Istaqraza Yastaqrizu Istiqrazan, which means Talabul Qars. I ask you to give me some qars. There's 4 words here. Can you see the red? Istiqraz. Number 2, Ada'ud Duyun. Ada'ud Duyun, I've explained what Dayn means. Dayn is a very general term which includes everything that is wajib on your zimmedari, and that is your responsibility. And wal hajr. Hajr means freezing of property. Literally, hajr means al-mana'. And shar'an, it means al-man'u 'an al-tasarruf fil mal. Stopping someone from doing tasarruf in his mal. And that is due to certain reasons. Allama Kashmiri Rahmatullah writes in Faithul Bari that there could be 3 reasons for hajr and freezing property and stopping someone from doing tasarruf in his property. Number 1, siba, childhood. If a child inherits million pounds, he cannot do tasarruf in there because he's not got the proper intelligence. So his proper assets will be frozen until he matures. Number 2, junoon, a mad person, an insane person. Insanity causes freezing of property. And riq, and slavery. A slave has to ask his master where he wants to spend the money. He can't do whatever he wants with it. And number 4, 4th reason Sahibain say is foolishness. If a person is safi, and he's wasting his property, then the Sharia could say to such a person, you're not allowed to buy and sell and go into transaction. You're not allowed to do business because you're a stupid fool. You waste your money. You buy for more and sell for less. That's foolishness. So Sharia Qazi, if some family, puts a case against him that, he's wasting our money, then the Qazi could say, you can't do tasarrufat. You've done so many transactions, you've gone into loss, and you're wasting all your money. This is safahat. And number 5, iflas, muflis, being a muflis, mufallas, which means bankrupt, which is called over here as taflis. Fallasa yufallisu taflisan means to declare someone bankrupt. So the Qadi says, well, this person is bankrupt. What does bankruptcy mean? Bankruptcy means that his debts are more than his possessions. Right? Let's say he's got 50,000 pounds, but he owes people £1 million. Now he's got no way of earning those £1 million which he owes to people. So people put a case against him, and the judge decides that this person is now bankrupt and he can't pay off the £1 million. So whatever property or assets or cash he has, the judge freezes that and divides it among those creditors who are owed. So, and then he no longer owes anything to them because everything is settled. Whatever he had, for example, all his properties and dukan and shop and everything, it was valued at, let's say, 200,000 pounds, but he owed £1 million. So the judge said that, take these 200,000 pounds. Now, sometimes the creditor is one like, Royal Bank of Scotland or NatWest. So they take 200,000 pounds and the 800,000 is gone. This is bankruptcy. Or sometimes the creditors are plenty. So what the Qazi would do is he would divide it according to their credit which they had given. For example, NatWest was owed 500,000. Bank of Scotland was owed 250,000, and Barclays was owed 250,000. But he only had 200,000, so he will be shared on percentage. So from the 200,000, 100,000 will go to Bank of Scotland, 50,000 will go to NatWest, and 50,000 will go to Barclays. So this is how bankruptcy is done, taflis. Now, Sahibain said that taflis also freezes the assets of a person. That if you are declared mufallas, then whatever is in your name is frozen, and you can't do any tasarruf in there. But Imam Abu Hanifa said no. Iflas, taflis, and safahat, these two are no reasons for freezing of assets. Imam Abu Hanifa said a person could be bankrupt today and he could become millionaire tomorrow. Anything could happen. Perhaps someone died and he inherited so much money, or someone gave him some gift or hadiah, or in today's term he played lottery and he won jackpot. So money comes and goes. Money is something which comes and goes. So he says there is no such thing as declaring someone bankrupt. This is opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. But Sahibain said that bankruptcy is possible. So there is a views in there. This is for Islamic court and judge to rule with regards to this. But Imam Bukhari Rahmatullah is mentioning these masail of these 4 things. Number 1, istiqraz, talabul qarz. Some masail in there. Ada'ud duyun. If you do take qarz, then you pay it off. And hajr. Sometimes your assets and your property could be frozen for certain reasons. And taflis. One could be declared bankrupt. So these masail are mentioned in this kitab. Now this hadith is brought in a chapter, Babu man ishtara bid-dayn wa laysa indahu thamanuhu aw laysa bihadratihi. A person buys a thing on credit and he has nothing to pay for it, or it is not with him at that time. Meaning he has, but he's not with him. Do you get it? One is he doesn't have. One is he does have, but it's at home, not at present. Like Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, bought something from a person, and he said, "You come with me to my house, I'll pay you then." So you can't do that. You pay it later on. Now Bukhari has conducted this chapter, "Ishtara bid-dayn wa laysa indahu thamanuhu aw laysa bihadratihi." He's brought the hadith in there that Jabir radiallahu anhu says, I was in a battle with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he asked me, how do you see this camel of yours? Will you sell it to me? And Jabir said, of course, yes, Rasulullah, you can take it. And I sold it to him, Jabir says. When I came to Medina Sharif, I went to him with the camel in the morning, and he paid me the price of it. So what do we see from there? The camel was bought along the way, and the price was not paid instantly. It was delayed. When did they arrive at Medina Sharif? Maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days later. So the purchase was done along the way, and the price was paid 5 days, 6 days later. So you can't do that. This is the meaning of the hadith. Now, why does Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi conduct this chapter? Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahmatullahi alayhi says, perhaps he is indicating towards another hadith of Abu Dawud and Hakim from Ibn Abbas, in which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, La ashtari shay'an wa laysa indi thamanuhu. I will not buy something for which I don't have the money to pay for it. La ashtari shay'an wa laysa indi thamanuhu. Bukhari is saying that hadith is da'if because there is a narrator in there called Shareef who narrates from Simak. So because of that dha'f of that hadith, Bukhari quoted this. This is opinion of Hafiz ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullahi. Number two, something that comes in my mind is that Bukhari could be saying that, purchasing something on credit is permissible because of the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu. However, the hadith of Abu Dawud also says, try to avoid it. Because what did the Prophet say? La ashtari shay'an wa laysa indi thamanuhu. If I don't have the means to pay for something, I won't buy it. You get it? Now, we understand here the masla of credit card. We buy things on credit card, we don't have the means to pay for it. And we think that, oh, I've got 28 days, I'll pay it in that time. Well, what if you can't pay it? What if something happens? Right? It's on you. If it goes over that period, you have to start paying interest. So don't buy things on credit cards. It's for your own good, my friend. I know of a friend who had this habit of credit card. He had 3 or 4 credit cards. And he bought sofas and furniture and did his house up. And he had, I don't know how much credit card debt at that time. And now he's paying 3, 4 credit cards. And whatever he earned from his taxi or whatever was all going in the credit cards. And he was barely surviving. His wife had to go to work in order to pay the bills and expenses. And he said to me, Maulana Sahib, I don't know what to do. I've got so much. I advised him, take some private loan, pay off all those credit cards, and then pay off that private loan. At least you'll be protected from the interest, which is increasing day by day. So we shouldn't purchase things on credit cards. Prophet ﷺ said, La ashtari shay'an wa laysa indi thamanuhu. I have to check first. Can I pay for it? If I can't pay for it, I'll buy it. If I can't pay for it, I'll avoid it. That is the best option. However, if there was necessity, need, no other way out, and you borrow from someone and then you purchase it and pay that person, that is allowed. But credit card should be avoided at all times. If you want to keep it just for, safety, security, you're on holiday somewhere, something like that, you don't use it, then that's something else. Mufti Taqi Sahib has allowed 1 credit card for this, provided you don't get involved in interest at all, and you are safe and free at risk from any risks of interest. Then you would be allowed to keep 1 credit card. But if you're not safe, you mustn't just chop it off with your scissors. Before, we used to get, free credit cards. They used to, Stanley Morgan Bank and Barclay card and Visa card. So when you come to my, I say, Caesar, cut, straight in the middle. The credit card, I don't want it, even if it's for free. So don't get into this credit card system. But Once I read in newspaper, this person, his wife demanded this and that. Non-Muslim, Goriya Bicharo. And he had 80,000 pounds on credit cards. And for holidays, this, that, couldn't pay it off. He was just struggling. What did he do? Suicide. Killed himself. He hanged himself. I'm never going to pay this all my life. I might as well kill myself. This is where it leads to. This is why we say that stay away from this credit card and interest and usury. We read the ayat, لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة. Don't consume riba, multiplying it in many, many folds. Now, many folds means your time for payment comes, you can't pay it, then interest goes on that interest. This is manifold. If you delay your payment 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, then that interest which was owed for that last month, you are paying interest on that interest. And if that goes to the end of the month, you are paying interest on that and for the previous month. And if it goes the third month, you're paying interest on that and for the 2 previous months, 3 months, 4 months. And this lady, she got a little bit of interest on high percentage. And she thought, I've got a nice job. I paid off quickly. She got it APR, I don't know, 35% or something, and paid in 3 months. So if you promise to pay it quickly, the APR raised. If you pay it in, delayed 10 years, then the APR is less. Now she took it on that, and within a month she lost the job. Now the amount she took on credit card was 30,000, but she couldn't pay it off because no job. And it went on and on and on and on, to the extent it increased so much that it went up to 300,000. 30,000 went up to how much? 300,000. And she was told by the bank that we are taking possession of your house, we're going to sell it, and we're going to take our money. She went to court and said, I only took 30,000. And the court said, well, that's your problem, but you promised on 35% high APR, should have paid it off. No way out. This is what happens. This is لا تأكلوا الربا أضعافا مضاعفة. चलिए. Compound interest is to go. जज़ाकल्लाहु मौलाना मूसा साहब. चलिए आगे next one.
عن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من اخذ اموال الناس يريد اداءها ادى الله عنه ومن اخذ يريد اتلافها اتلفه الله. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, whoever takes the money of the people with the intention of repaying it, Allah will repay it on his behalf, and whoever takes it in order to spoil it, then Allah will spoil it.
See, whoever takes money from people with the intention of repaying it, Allah will repay it for him. Addallahu anhu. Addallahu anhu. What she writes, yassara lahu ma yu'addihi min fadlihi li husni niyyatihi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ease for him that by which he will repay due to the grace of Allah because of his husni niyyat. And Allama Aini rahmatullahi alayhi has quoted another hadith over here, beautiful hadith from Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban, and Hakim, who said, ما من مسلم يدان دينا يعلم الله أنه يريد أداءه إلا أداه الله في الدنيا. Where there is no Muslim who takes dain and Allah knows that he intends to pay it off, but Allah will pay it off for him in the dunya. You get that? You really deep down your heart, you want to pay it off, then Allah will pay it off for you. You have to have that intention. And this is why, whenever someone asks me about buying a house, my advice is, don't go for a massive mansion. 2 or 2 down flat should be sufficient for you. And don't go for conventional mortgage, and don't go for Islamic mortgage. And when you get money from private mortgage. Private mortgage, 5,000 from this one, 5,000 from Blind by 5,000 from Blind 5,000, Siddharth 10,000, one Musa Sab 10,000. Family members, surplus money people have. And you will pay it within a flash. You know why? Because you want to avoid sin. Based on your taqwa, Allah's support is behind you. Allah will bring you money from means which you never even thought of. Allah will pay it off for you. I can give many examples of this. Many examples. This young man comes to me, Islamic mortgage. I said, don't take it. He said, what's up? But I have to. No, you don't have to. Ask your family members. They will give you. Ask your friends. And after 2-3 years, he comes back to me. Mithai, Maulana Sahab, Jazakallah for that advice. Alhamdulillah, all my debts are paid off. And family members, the house is free, everything is paid off. My brother, he wanted to buy his, the shop he was renting. Said the guy is selling it, I'm paying him rent for 10-12 years. I want to buy, I have to take mortgage. I said, your mortgage, you don't have to mortgage. I cut off, one buy left, one brother left, no correction with me. They will be no mortgage. I said, what shall I do? I said, you are a businessman. You buy, stuff from wholesalers. They have lots of money. Ask them, Manchester, Bury Road. And he said, yeah, I never thought of that. And he talked to his wholesaler, and the wholesaler knows that, Saeed is a good lad, and he pays on time, he's never in debt credit. He needed 70,000, he gave him. Take it, paid off. And Alhamdulillah, within 2-3 years, everything is done. Otherwise, he would have been stuck for 25 years. And many examples I can give over here. So the best option is private mortgage. If you can't get private mortgage, don't take any other mortgage. Live in rent. Just pay rent, no problem rent. But I know London rent is very expensive, but Bolton rent is cheap. You can get a better house for half the rent you pay in London. So come up north, stay over here. Sometimes I say, if you have to live in London, then buy a house up north somewhere and put it on rent. Rental agencies, you get 100,000, 150,000, very nice house over here, 150, 170,000. So if you buy a house over here, put it on rent, you get rent as well. And if something happens up down south and you need to move, you have a house over here, you can move into your own property. Right? Things can happen. Your job is not secure. You could have an accident, you could, a problem, bimari, illness, something, lose your job, anything could happen. So if you have your own property, it's best for you. Don't live in rent for your whole life. So this is something which needs to be kept in mind. चलिए आगे. من أخذ أموال الناس يريد أداءها أو إتلافها. Second option is if you take money from people in order to spoil and destroy it, that will destroy you as well. If you take loan from people, right, and you have no intention of paying it off, but you're just taking it because he's loaded and he'll give me. My uncle, my auntie, my nephew, my grandpa, he's got a lot of money. Grandpa, can I have 10,000 please? Uncle, can I borrow 10,000 please? Can I borrow 5,000 please? But you have no intention of paying it off, Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahib called it Qarz-e Hasana. He said, one is Qarz-e Hasana with Ha, which means Qarz-e Hasana, goodly loan. You take private loan and you pay it off. And the other is Qarz-e Hasana with a small Ha, meaning when they ask for you, this my God, please, you don't want to pay it off. This is Qarz-e Hasana. It's not Qarz-e Hasana. You take from people and you just want to laugh it off, you want to pay it back. So if you take Qarz-e Hasana, Allah will help you to pay it off. But if you take Qarz-e Hasana, Allah won't pay it off, and you will be destroyed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You won't pay it off, and you will go in your cover, you still owe it, and you will be accounted for it in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Chaliye.
Once while I was in the company of the Prophet ﷺ, he saw the mountain of Uhud and said, I would not like to have this mountain turned to go for me unless nothing of it, or even a single dinar remains of it with me for more than 3 days. I will spend all of it in Allah's cause, except that dinar which I will keep from paying debts. Then he said, those who are rich in this world would have little reward in the hereafter, except those who spend their money here and there in Allah's cause, and they are few in number. Then he ordered me to stay at my place and went not far away. I heard a voice and intended to go to him, but I remembered his order, stay at your place, and I returned. On his return, I said, O Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was that noise which I heard? He said, Did you hear anything? I said, yes. He said, Jibreel alayhi salam came and said to me, whoever amongst your followers dies, worshipping none along with Allah will enter paradise. I said, even if he did such and such things? He said, yes.
This hadith is brought in the chapter of Babu Adati Duyun, paying off the debts. And the ayat is quoted, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tuaddu al-amanati ila ahliha. Indeed, Allah commands you to pay and repay and return the amanat to the rightful owners. Now, Bukhari is trying to say, dain is also amanat, right? Amanat is something which you take for safekeeping, and dain is something which you take for using. So something which you take for safekeeping, because in the previous days there was no banks, right? So poor people, if they had a little bit of money and they couldn't keep it safe in their small huts and slums, they would go to a rich person who has a nice, very large mansion and say, can you please look after this money for me, this bag of coins? And the person would say, no problem, put it in that room, this is my private room. He opens the lock and keeps it there. And when the poor man wants his money, he says, oh, this is the key, go there, take your money from there. So he would take his bag from there. So people were generally very amanatdar, and they used to help the poor people look after their amanat and give it back when they want it. Allah tells you that return the amanat to the rightful owners. Addil amanata ila man iktamanat wa la takhun man khana. So if that is, zaruri, necessary to be given back, then dain is more important to be given back. Dain is also an amanat. Is included in Allah ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha. This is what Imam Bukhari is trying to say. Then he brings the hadith of Abu Dharr Ghifari radiyallahu anhu, which has two sections. The second section is mentioned in Kitab al-Janaiz. I won't cover it, and just go on the first section. Abu Dharr Ghifari says, I was with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He saw the Mount Uhud. He said, I would not like to have this mountain turned into gold for me, unless nothing of it, not even a single dinar, remains of it with me for more than 3 days, meaning I will spend it all in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that dinar which I will keep for repaying debts. This is the intended part of the hadith. Except a dinar I keep for repaying debts. Why would I have to keep that dinar for repaying debts? Because the rightful owner is not present, he is on a journey, traveling, he's going to come back after 10 days, 2 weeks, a month. So I have to save it for him, because when he comes back, I can give it back to him, repay. Other than that, I would not want the Mount Uhud to be turned into gold and it stays with me after 3 days. Meaning within 3 days, I would spend all of it in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was like that. He's true to his word, he's not faking it, he's really like that. When the Bahrain's khazana and treasures came and one corner of the masjid was filled with those treasures, what did the Prophet ﷺ do? He just sat over there and started distributing and distributing. He did not get up from there until every single coin was given out. On one instance, he prayed his Asr namaz, and as soon as he said Assalamu alaikum, he immediately rushed, stood up, went to his house, and then came back after a bit. Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, you don't normally do this. You sit in your place, you do your azkar, awrat. Unlike some people, selfies, Assalamu alaikum, finish. Now, no sunnats, nothing. Some people do this. They jump up, spring up. That should not be the case. You should pray your sunnats. Your awrat, azkar, composure, sit there, little bit. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So, he started rushed and back. So he said, why did you do this today? And he said, well, some things had come and had distributed it, but there was a raw piece of gold which was left in the house. I remembered it during the salah. So I thought, if I don't give it out now, then I could forget and I could spend the night in my house. I didn't want that gold to spend the night in my house. That's why I ordered it for distribution. So this was his condition. And even then he said, If I owed someone something, I would keep that in my house to repay that when that person returns. Do you see the importance of debts and repaying it? Thereafter, Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna al-ahsaninahu laqallun illa man qala bil mali hakaza wa hakaza." And we explained this hadith last week in London. You can listen to that. Chaliye.
قال أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لو كان لي مثل أحد ذهب ما يسرني أن لا يمر علي ثلاث وعندي منه شيء إلا شيء أرسله لدين. رواه صالح وعقيل عن الزهري. Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, if I had gold equal to the mountain of Uhud, it would not please me that it should remain with me for more than 3 days, except an amount which I would keep on paying debt.
Similar hadith in the same chapter. Chaliye.
عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال أتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو في المسجد قال مسعر أراه قال ضحى فقال صلي ركعتين وكان عليه دين فقضاني وزادني. I went to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم while he was in the mosque. Mas'ar thinks that Jabir went in the for me. After the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم told me to pray 2 rak'ah, he repaid me the debt he owed me and gave me an extra amount.
This hadith is brought in the chapter Babu Husni al-Qadha. And Bukhari is trying to say Babu istihbabi husni al-qadha. It is mustahab and desirable to pay your debt off in a beautiful manner. If you owe someone, pay it in a good way, in a beautiful way. And don't force them to be rude to you and beg to you and force you, and maybe in some cases file a lawsuit against you and go to the court and force you to pay it off. It's not good. Pay it off in a nice way. This is what the hadith is trying to say. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the hadith of Jabir radiallahu anhu, again he was in the masjid, it was 4 noon time, Salatul Duha time, he said pray 2 rakats. And I had some dain on him, he repaid me and gave me more. Extra amount. This is part of that hadith which we read before. Do you remember the hadith? When in the journey he bought the camel from Jabir and he paid his money when he got to Medina. So when Jabir got to Medina, he unloaded his camel and drove the camel straight to the masjid, tied it outside the masjid, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, there is your camel. So Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, okay, go pray 2 rakat Tahiyatul Masjid first. So he prayed to Tahiyatul Masjid. Meantime, he called for Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. And he said, give him, the price of the camel, 40 dirhams or whatever we had decided, and give him a little bit extras there. Now this is, paying off in a good way. Now, what was this extra? There was no interest, right? There was something for purchase. There wasn't money for money. It was money for product. So he was owed 40 dirhams for the camel. Prophet ﷺ gave him that 40 dirhams and also gave him more on top. So if you are happy with the product and you give more, that is good. Sometimes you can't do that. MashaAllah, you were nice to me. I'll give you 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds more for your effort. You brought it to my house. Delivery cost. Here, take it. This is a gift from me. Take some takeaway. Eat some from a restaurant. So you give some more than what you owe. That is better. That's good.
Tip in restaurant.
Mona Sahib is saying tips in restaurant. Good tips. You can give some tips. Don't give too much. लेकिन देना चाहिए थोड़े बहुत tips. चलिए.
إن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما أخبره أن أباه قتل يوم أحد شهيدا وعليه دين فاشتد الغرباء في حقوقه فأتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فسألهم أن يقبلوا ثمر حائطي ويحللوا أبي فأبوا فلم يعطهم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حائطي وقال سنغدو عليك فغدا علينا حين أصبح فضاف في النخل ودعا في ثمرها بالبركة فجددتها فقضيتهم وبقي لنا من ثمرها. My father was martyred on the day of the Battle of Uhud and he was in debt. His creditors demanded their rights persistently. I went to the Prophet ﷺ and informed him about it. He told them to take the fruits of my garden and exempt my father from the debts, but they refused to do so. So the Prophet ﷺ did not give them my garden and told me that he would come to me the next morning. He came to us early in the morning and wandered wandered among the date palms and invoked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless their fruits, and then plucked the dates and paid to the creditors, and there remain some of the dates for us.
The translation is clear. This chapter is Babu إذا قضى دون حقه أو حلله فهو جائز. When a person repays less than what is due, or asks for tahleel and mu'afi and pardon, then that is also jaiz. The hadith is that Jabir's father died and he owed a lot to some people. Now, he had an orchard which produced dates. So, Jabir radiallahu anhu asked them that, look, this is what the harvest is going to be, this amount of fruit is coming. You accept that? Man, pardon me, let me off. And they said, no, we want exactly what we are owed. So Jabir came to the Prophet and said, Yes, can you please help me? Perhaps if you say something, put in a word, they will let my father off and accept what I have. And Prophet said, okay, so he came. And he said that, be gentle with Jabir, take what you are a little bit less. So they said, no, we want exactly what we are owed. Prophet said, okay, you will get exactly what you want. So he said to Jabir, cut, all the fruits, pick all the dates and gather them and make separate heaps of them. Ajwa on one side, Qalmi on one side, Barni on one side, and then call me. So when he did that after a few days and picked all the fruits and it was all ready, he called on the Prophet ﷺ, and the creditors also came. So Prophet ﷺ was reading something and he was walking around the largest heap. And then Prophet ﷺ sat there and he started measuring and paying off, filling in the sacks, khajur, and wasaq after wasaq after wasaq. And he paid all that from that one heap. And the other heaps were left as they were. In the other riwayat, it said that he paid off, I think, 17 wasaq and 13 wasaq was still left after that. And Prophet ﷺ said, go and tell Umar. So Jabir went and told Umar. And Umar said, I knew it. When Prophet ﷺ walked around it, Allah is going to give barakat. So that's the hadith. What is the point in there? That if a person was in debt and he requested the creditors to reduce the amount of debt, then that is possible. And if they are lenient and they reduce it, it's good. It is allowed, it is jaiz to ask your creditors to reduce the amount of debt. This is the aim of the hadith, because Jabir asked them, Prophet ﷺ also asked them, it is allowed, because if the person is nice and gentle, he'll say, all right, no problem, I'll reduce it for you.
Is it allowed in money?
Huh?
Is it allowed in money? This is not money, this is tamar. Is it allowed in money? So if I owe you 100 pounds, say 90 pounds, so can you do that?
It's allowed. More is not allowed. Asking for more is not. I can't ask you to give me 120, but you can ask me that I've only got 80. Can you let me off? You get it? This is Jabir asking for reduction. So if it's allowed in tamar, it's allowed in money as well, right? But you can't ask, because more will become interest, demanding. Interest is where something is conditioned or it's commonly known. Then that's interest. If it's not conditioned, it's not commonly known, then it won't be interest. This is another thing, another subject. But I'm just talking about your answer, that you can't ask for reduction in payment, even in money as well. So if the person is nice and he reduces it, that's okay. Chaliye.
عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أخبرته أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يدعو بالصلاة يقول اللهم إني أعوذ بك من المأثم المغرم، فقال له قائل ما أكثر ما تستعيد يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من المغرم؟ قال إن الرجل إذا غرم حدث فكذب ووعد فأخلف. Allah's Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم used to invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the prayer, saying, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge with you from all sins and from being in debt." Someone said, "Oh Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I see you very often. You seek refuge with Allah from being in debt." He replied, "If a person is in debt, he tells lies when he speaks and breaks his promises when he promises."
यूनुस, ये हमारे रफाई भाई और हुज़ैफा कब से बेचारे बैठे हैं, इनको किताब दो ना, बॉक्स में से किताब दो इनको, और टिपाई भी दे दो, जैसे टिपाई ले लो। अच्छा भाई, खाने पीने की इंक्वायरी करो, बोले यूसुफ खाने पीने वाले खाने का क्या निजाम है, अभी खाना है कि जोहर बाद खाना है? मेरे ख्याल में जोहर बाद खाना पड़ेगा, है ना? अभी तो नाश्ता किया है, पेट में खाली जगह नहीं है, कैसे पड़ेगा उसको? तो कुर्बानी का गोश्त था, रिजवान का कुर्बानी का गोश्त है। रिजवान ने नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की तरफ से एक जानवर की कुर्बानी की थी, हमको क्या था, तो हमने वो गोश्त फ्रीजर में रखा था, तो आज आपके लिए वो गोश्त पकाया है, तो अभी आ जाएगा इंशाअल्लाह। तो अभी नहीं खाएंगे, जोहर बाद खाएंगे इंशाअल्लाह, ठीक है? तो अभी थोड़ा 10 मिनट एक्सटेंड कर देते हैं और फिर जोहर बाद जरा 10 मिनट रिड्यूस कर देंगे, क्योंकि किताब पूरी करनी है। अभी तक कितनी हदीसें हो गई? 18 हदीसें हो गई अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, काफी हो गई, 40 तक पहुंचना है। मोस्ट ऑफ कलाम तो हो गया है, थोड़ा बहुत कलाम बाकी है, फिर कुछ और मसाइल अपनी तरफ से जरा मौलाना इब्राहिम साहब बयान करेंगे या हमारे मौलाना जुबैर को हम लाएंगे इंशाल्लाह ऑनलाइन, फिर देखेंगे क्या होता है, ठीक है? अच्छा, ये बाब जो हमने पढ़ा है ना अभी, बाबु मन इस्ताअज़ मिनद दईन, chapter to seek refuge with Allah from being in debt. The hadith says in the namaz, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would seek refuge from sins and from being in debt. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-maqtham wal-maghram. Al-maqtham means ithm, sin. Well, I seek your refuge from sin, disobedience. I don't want to disobey you. I don't want to commit your sin. Please protect me from sin. And wal-maghram, maghram, gharima yaghramu, ghurman means something that sticks to someone. So a penalty, a fine, a debt are all called maghram. So I seek your refuge from sin and falling into debt. I don't want to have any debt on me, anything I owe to people here and there. Please protect me from this. So someone asked, Ya Rasulullah, ma akthara ma tasta'idu min al-maghram? How often you seek Allah's refuge from debts? You know, you're very scared of maghram and debts and owing things to people. And he said, yes, because in the rajul idha gharima haddatha fakadaba wa wa'ada fa akhlafa. Because when a person is in debt, he tells lies when he speaks and breaks his promises when he promises. Allahu Akbar. Beautiful words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Sahab said over here, अगरचे दईन लेना जायज है मगर उससे पनाह मांगते रहना चाहिए, इसलिए कि ये कभी कभी झूठ और वादा खिलाफी का सबब बन जाता है. Though taking loan is permissible, but we should still seek Allah's protection and refuge from taking loans and taking debts from people. Because many times it leads to lying and it leads to breaking of promises, and both are sins. Lying is a sin, breaking a promise is also a sin. So you should seek Allah's refuge from death and falling into death, because it could lead to falling into lying and breaking of promises. Ibn Battal Maliki Rahmatullah alayhi also wrote that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam sought Allah's refuge from death because لأنه ذريعة إلى الكذب والخلف في الوعد. It is a route to lying and breaking promises. مع ما فيه من الذلة, along with the humiliation which is in asking people for money and debt. وما لصاحب الدين عليه من المقال, and along with the rude behavior you have to suffer from the creditors. Because normally when people borrow money, they are harsh and they are rude, because wealthy people don't give money for no reasons, and when they do give, they want something with it. And sometimes they disgrace you in front of everyone. Allah bhai, Allah pehla jaldi, kya mujhe de do nahi? In front of everyone, he say, "Allah banana tum kam dalil karo? Sabke samne kyun mujhe dalil kar rahe hain? Sabke samne tumne bol diya." But he has to say it. He said it. So you have to somebody inshallah, I'll pay you it. So because of all these things that come after debts and loans, Prophet ﷺ taught us to seek Allah's refuge from falling into debts. So this is the reason. So fi nafsi, borrowing money is allowed, but still seek Allah's refuge from borrowing, because it could lead you to lying and breaking of promises. This is why Imam Bukhari brought this hadith in Babu Man Ista'adha min al-Dayn. Chaliye.
عن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه ان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: ما من مؤمن الا وانا اولى به في الدنيا والاخره، اقرأوا ان شئتم النبي اولى بالمؤمنين من انفسهم، فايما مؤمن مات وترك مالا فليرثه عصبته من كانوا، ومن ترك دينا او ضياعا فليأتني فانا مولاه. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, I am close to the believers than their slaves in this world and in the hereafter. And if you like, you can read Allah's statement. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is closer to the believers than their own selves. So if a true believer dies and leaves behind some property, it will be for his inheritance. And if he leaves behind some debt to be paid or needy offspring, then they should come to me, as I am the guardian of the deceased.
Bukhari rahimahullah brought this hadith in the chapter Babu Salati ala man taraka daynan, praying namaz of a person who's left behind debts. You remember I indicated previously that this bab is coming on page 323. This is the bab. This is where Allama Aini Rahmatullah said this hadith is nasikh for the hadith of Abu Qatada radiyallahu anhu, where he said, Sallu ala sahibikum, pray janazah, I'm not praying it. So this hadith is nasikh, as-salatu ala man taraka daynan. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that I am closer to the believers than themselves in this world and in the hereafter. مَا مِن مُؤْمِنٍ إِلَّا وَأَنَا أَوْلَى بِهِ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. There is no believer, but I am more closer to him than anything else in dunya and in akhirat. Meaning, Prophet ﷺ should be more dear to us than anything in the whole world. We should love him more than everything. And he said, I am more closer to them. If we draw ourselves closer to the Prophet ﷺ, we will feel his closeness to us. And he said, because of that, the ayat said, النَّبِيُّ أَوْلَى بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. Then he said the statement, فَأَيُّمَا مُؤْمِنٍ. Since I am more closer to people, then whichever mu'min dies and leaves behind property, it will be for his inheritors. And if he leaves behind some debt to be paid off or needy offsprings, then they should come to me, as I am their guardian and guardian of the deceased. Man taraka malan falyarithhu asabatuhu man kanu. If he leaves behind wealth, his asaba can inherit him. Asaba means inheritance from the father's side. And from the mother's side, they are called Zawil Arham. So the relatives from the father's side, they will inherit him. And whoever leaves dayn or daya'an, anything that is wajib on him, or daya'an, children which are abandoned, which could be abandoned because they are needy, the family are poor, yatim, orphans, then they should come to me, because I am their Mawla and guardian. Over here, Allama Ibn Battal Maliki Rahmatullah alayhi says, هذا ناسخ لترك الصلاة على من مات وعليه دين. Allama Aini Rahmatullah alayhi writes, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يصلي عليه قبل فتح الفتوحات، فلما فتح الله تعالى منها ما فتح صار النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي عليه، فصار فعله هذا ناسخا لفعله الأول. وأشار البخاري بهذه الترجمة إلى ذلك فحصلت المطابقة بين الترجمة والحديث من هذه الحيثية مأخوذ من العين شرح البخاري. चलिए
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مطل الغني ظلم. Allah SWT said procrastination in repaying debts by a wealthy person is injustice.
And this chapter is Babun Matlul Ghaniye Zulmun. Matala Yampul Matlan means time told karna. Time told karna. Time de rehna. Procrastination, delay. Now, delaying will be either by a faqir or a ghani. A poor person delays the payment, or a rich person delays the payment. Now, a poor person delays it because he hasn't got it. How can it be? Where can he get it from? Though that's wrong, if you don't have it, then what you should do is borrow from someone else and give it to this person. Iski to bhi usko pehna do. But if a person is rich, he's loaded, right? You got a lot of money, you got 50,000 in your bank, and you owe one of the Sirat Sahib 5,000 bucks. And one of the Sirat Sahib says, please give me no money back. And you say, okay, I'll give you next week. You go next week, oh no, next week, I'll give you next month. Next month, oh no, I have to, I've still got some bills to pay off. I'll give you it later. Now, time after time, he's delaying. This is called matlul ghaniyye, the delaying and deferring in payments by a rich person who's got money, who's loaded, is zulm. Zulm means injustice. That person is being unjust and he is committing oppression, tyranny. He is tyrannical, traumatizing that person who's owed the money. So you should pay it off. You should not make him beg you for that 5,000 pounds. This is zulm. And we will read in the hadith later on, az-zulmu zulumatun yawm al-qiyamah. Zulm is a cause of darknesses on the day of Qiyamah. So don't become a zalim. If you got money, pay your debt off quickly. When you get money, just pay it off. Don't keep it. Chaliye. Matlul ghaniyye zulm. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has quoted over here another chapter, Babul li sahibil haqq maqal. Sahibul haqq will have the permission to say something. Meaning, if he was to be harsh, then he has that permission to do so. Another hadith said, Layyul wajid yuhillu irdahu wa uqubatahu. A rich person's procrastinating, delaying, deferring payments makes his honor legal and makes his punishment legal as well. What is the punishment? Imam Bukhari said, قال سفيان عرضه يقول مطلتني. And dishonoring him is to say to him, why, you've delayed my payments a lot. I'm fed up now. This is عرضه. العقوبة الحبس. You can go to the judge and tell the judge to imprison him until he pays off his debt. He's got money, he's not paying it off. The qazi can look at the case and see, how much bank balance he's got and force him to pay. Is habs and imprisonment allowed or not? Ibn al-Mubarak, Waqi ibn al-Jarrah said yes, it's allowed. A'immah Arba, Hanafiya, Shafi'iyya, Malikiyya, Hanabila all say that if a person is rich and is not paying it, then the qazi, after listening to the case, looking at all arguments and witnesses and everything, if he decides to put him in prison until he pays it off, then the qazi has the ability to do that. Number two, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and Layth ibn Sa'd said that يُقْسَمُ مَالُهُ بَيْنَ الْغُرَمَاءِ وَلَا يُحْبَسُ, quoted by Shaykh Yunus, that his wealth will be distributed among the creditors and his he will not be put in prison. So this is the opinion of Layth ibn Sa'd and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. The Qazi will take hold of his assets and divide it among those who are owed, and he will not be put in prison. This is their opinion. And this is in the other chapter. We have not quoted that over here. चलिए.
إنه سمع أبا هريرة رضي الله عنه.
बस I think यहाँ पर break कर लें. Hadith 20 हो गई. 21 से बाद में पढ़ लेंगे. तब शाम इस्तिंजा वुजू कर लें. नमाज की तैयारी करें. नमाज की at 1:30 और after namaz we have Khatm Khajgan, and inshallah we'll pray Khatm Khajgan, and then we'll have a short dua, 2 minutes dua inshallah today, and then we'll have food inshallah. Let's hope the gosh is cooked and it arrives on time inshallah, and the naan is here as well on time because Karanji was going to get the naan. Allah make everything easy. Make short dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم لك الحمد والشكر. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من المغفر والمغرم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا صالحا ورزقا حلالا طيبا واسعا والشفاء من كل داء. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ووسع لنا في دورنا وبارك لنا في أرزاقنا. Ya Rabbal Alameen, give us barakat in our halal rizq and help us to stay away from haram and shukuk and shubuhat, and help us to keep steadfast on our deen. Protect us from falling into debts, owing people, and from those things which are far, baliyat, which come after deen, of lying and deceiving and breaking promises. Protect us from that as well. And Allah, help us to pay everyone off before we go from here, and call us from this dunya while we don't owe anyone a single penny, or no huquq of ibad upon us, no huququllah upon us. We have paid all huququl ibad and we have fulfilled all huququllah, and we come to you in a clean and pure manner. Allow us and help us to come to you in this way. Accept our humble du'as, accept this lesson of Dars of Shaheeh Bukhari Shareef. Reward Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, shower your rahmah on his grave and on the grave of Hazrat Shaykh Yunus Sahab and Hafiz ibn Hajar Asqalani and Allama Aini and Allama ibn Battal, Allama Kirmani. Reward them all for their efforts. Accept our humble efforts. Be pleased with us. Reward all our asatiza and our parents and everyone, and reward all these students who are sitting over here as well, and accept their gathering over here. Accept our humble du'as. Give us all those good things which your beloved sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked from you. Protect us from all those evils from which he sought your protection. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. Will you still not is 5 prayers or generally 5?